season, I was lucky enough to take a trip of a lifetime to Burgundy, France, where I jumped aboard a beautiful barge named La Belle Époque to sail down the glorious canals and enjoy the finest French cuisine. Today on the canals, it's picture perfect. Look at what I get to see every single day. Along the way, we stopped off at markets and restaurants, sampled produce from the finest French artisans, visited stunning medieval towns, and of course, I got to cook up some of my favourite French-inspired recipes. This is the oldest kitchen I have ever worked in. This kitchen was built in the 13th century, which means it's about 800 years old. And you can only imagine what it was like back in the old days, teeming with people, lots of busyness happening here. I could see a cauldron over here in the big fireplace, bubbling away, maybe some ducks hanging, and it's the heart of the chateau. So I thought I'd do a few canapes to go with champagne. 2 canapes that I've had here in France when it's a special occasion. Foie gras is something you don't have often, so I'll make a little foie gras toast with some caramelised onions and a simple blini with some hot smoked salmon. Okay, so for the confit of onions, we're going to turn the heat on. So I want to start with a pan that's on a medium to high heat because I want some good caramelisation on my onions. A few knobs of butter, and once that starts to melt, we can add our onions. Now these are just simple brown onions. I've finely sliced them. You want them to be wafer thin. They not only will cook fast, but we want them to really break down so they're almost like jam. And to give it some extra flavour, I love the addition of some thyme. So 2 or 3 sprigs, give that a stir. And then I'll just leave that be for a moment, constantly stirring until it gets that lovely golden colour. Now for the foie gras, I've got a whole duck foie gras here. We're going to cut it into slices, sort of 2 centimetre chunks. I'm doing this because I don't want the foie gras to break up. It is such a luxurious, decadent product. You really don't need much of it to go a long way. I'll grab a cookie cutter and then we're going to cut that into a circle. And then what I like to do is grab a little brioche, and what I've done here is just toasted some brioche in lots of butter because it didn't have enough butter in it already, but it goes really nicely with the foie gras because it's slightly sweet. So then I'll grab my cookie cutter and we're going to pop our piece of foie gras on top. Oh, look at that, fantastic. I'll continue cutting out the foie gras for the little toast. Now back to these onions. See, we've got a nice deep colour here. I want to deglaze the pan now with some champagne, of course. So a little drizzle. That smells so good. And because the sugars are going to come out of that champagne once it's reduced, it's going to give some more flavour to our beautiful onions. So these just now need to cook slowly until they're lovely and soft, and we'll be almost ready to go. Okay, these onions have cooked down nicely. You can see there's no liquid whatsoever and they're super soft and sticky. Do let them cool down because you don't want to be adding hot onions to this delicate foie gras. So to dress this, it's just a little gesture of onion. That little pop of sweetness makes all the difference. And there are so many different sweet combinations that you could add to this. A little jam of fig, fantastic. Even some grapes, so just macerated grapes. Okay, that's the first canapé done. For the second one, this one's super simple too. I've got some hot smoked salmon. I want to cut this super fine, almost like, think of steak tartare, so super fine. Cut this into strips. Once you've done that, line everything up and again, cut through it. Nice sharp knife for this, and then run your knife through it a few times so we get tiny little squares. Then I'll pop it in a bowl and then mix it with all my other ingredients. Along with that finely sliced salmon, I'm adding some creme fraiche and some lemon zest. All flavours that pair beautifully, as well as some chopped chives to garnish. To make our little canapes, these are blinis. I've just warmed them up slightly, and I'm going to quenelle this delicious salmon rillette over the top. With the other spoon, just press down on it. And by doing that, you're sort of compacting it, and also it looks fantastic for presentation. Okay. Okay, we'll pop that on the blini. Looks good. It's all about the fine details when you're doing canapes. Some salmon roe over the top for that pop of saltiness. And our chives, they go on top. How cute is that? And yes, they are small, but the whole idea is to have a champagne in one hand and be able to grab your canapé quite easily in the other. I'm going to continue making these. I know these are going to go so well with champagne. It's not hard to imagine these canapés being whisked out to a ballroom full of guests all dressed up in their finest gowns. It really is fairy tale stuff. But for now, a glass of champagne and a blini right here in the kitchen will suit me just fine.